Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be picking up right where we left off last episode. How's it going, Artem? Good. So last video we had epoxied a bunch of little filler pieces into the frame here to let it cure, and then we moved over to the engine bay. So last video we of course took apart this 6-cylinder flathead, this gray marine, and now we have all of the parts kind of waiting on deck here. Cue ball pinstriping is going to be going through these and getting these all cleaned up and presentable. Like I said in an earlier video, we're going to be polishing up this brass, removing some of the paint, and getting everything painted really nice and clean. Also intend on making some short form videos such as rebuilding the starter, rebuilding the generator, and items like that, so you guys can stay tuned. If there's anything in particular you want to see, again, please let us know. We'd love to share the process with you. Maybe do a little video on how we plan on removing all the paint and how we're going to paint it back up. But I don't think we're going to be doing a full video on the cleanup of this. If anything, we might do a compiled version of all the clips together, possibly, but we'll have to see how we plan on going ahead with that. Right now, he's currently working on this outboard motor. He's rebuilding this outboard motor back up to get this all clean and fresh, and that's actually going to be going on that red U2 that I had in the video right here. And he did the lettering on this boat here. You can see chocolate was put on there. That was all hand done. So back to today's topic, we're going to be picking up right where we left off. I'm going to be getting these cut and sanded down, and then we are going to install these frame pieces and move on to the next ones. So I got all these cut and filed flat and smooth on all these surfaces. So now we're going to get set up to drill the holes down and through. Now this may seem obvious, but once you have this all cleaned up and sanded, don't just re-drill this hole. Make sure that you reinstall the pieces of wood that you had in there before, so you can then line it up and assess where the new hole is going to have to go. As everything is clamped into position, I am then going to begin marking out exactly where those holes have to go. Now if we look at the design of the other frames, we can see that it goes right down into this connecting piece that cuts across here. So we're going to be doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to make sure that I'm dead in the middle, using that trick I taught you guys last time of just holding the pencil in such a way. And then once I have that, I'll figure out where the middle on this line is in accordance with this piece, and then I have my spot. And it's dead in the middle of this. We'll get set up to start drilling that. To do that, I'm going to use this really long drill bit. Do not use two short ones and come up from the bottom and then come from the top. You'll never connect them together, and if you do, it's going to be not very straight. You'll probably have one like this and one like that. So make sure you're using a very long drill bit, and then as we go, we're going to be stepping it up to the various sizes and working our way out from there. So you can always pick up a drilling jig for, about $20–40 is the ones that you can see here listed on Amazon. There's plenty of other stuff at your local hardware stores, but for simplicity's sake, just for a guy who just has a drill and a drill bit, I'll show you guys the way that we would do it like that. Typically we ourselves would build a jig for all this, but again, I'm just trying to show you how the average person can do this at home without a bunch of convoluted equipment. So if you get a couple of pieces of wood and get them straight on, so you have this axis and then this axis as well, you can then use that as a sight to sight in the drill bit to make sure that you're drilling it perfectly straight up and down. Another option you have is to take that drill jig, come from the bottom, and drill straight up. That is a option that you can use. However, one thing I want to make totally clear is that the castle bolt that'll be inside of it actually needs to be very symmetrical in here. You can imagine, it'd be the other way around, but this would have to sit dead in the middle of this piece of wood so that the edges aren't sticking out like this. So getting it started with a tiny size on the top, and then working your way all the ways down, and then using a jig to finalize that coming up is another option. There's plenty of different ways to do this. Whatever you find works best for you is good to go, but for me personally, just making sure the drill bit's sighted here and making sure it's sighted over here at the same time, and then getting down to about this depth right here, you'll find the drill bit starts to go on its own at that point. I find that works pretty good for myself, but yeah, best advice, get a jig, set a jig up, get these done with that jig. That way you can be sure that it's done correctly every time. So now I have the preliminary holes drilled. Of course, they're a size down from the fastener that I will be using. Never drill to the size you think you're going to be using because you could be wrong. We're currently waiting for these carriage bolt fasteners to come in. And one thing I will mention, whatever fasteners, whatever screws, whatever bolts you're putting on these, make sure you're either using brass or stainless. Those are your two options. The reason for that is you don't want these rotting and breaking and coming apart in the boat over time, especially in saltwater applications. The salt will really destroy the fasteners that you're putting in. So by using stainless hardware, you are prolonging the life of your boat, especially on the hull sides. You can see over time, if you don't use stainless fasteners, the rust will eventually start seeping through. I don't know if that's what happened on this boat. This could be that they just used the wrong plugs, who knows? But you will see, look kind of like that. This is quite possibly steel. It'll start seeping little iron staining through. So you could have some really nice work on here where you can't even see the plugs. This barrel back we're working on, you can't see the plugs unless you're looking for them. They're in there really nice. When this is all sanded down, blended, and varnished, you will hardly be able to notice these. But if you were to put steel fasteners in, over time it would start to rust and you would see a little ring. So all your hard work would be for nothing in the end. So unfortunately, I am gonna have to leave these frames where they are right now until I get the fasteners to bolt these carriage bolts through. Once these are in place, then I can then fasten this piece to this one. So I'm gonna actually have to leave it right there. I'm gonna move on to the next one, get these ones drilled and set up just the same as these. Actually, almost forgot, I'm also gonna drill and get this piece ready as well for a fastener. This would be another really good time to use a jig because you have a somewhat flat surface, so drilling through you can be confident that it'll be somewhat straight and level on here. Those of you who are watching along with us on the series, you'll remember that I took this wood screw out of this one right here, the old frame pieces. So it appears on this boat, they actually alternate them, so it'll be carriage bolt here, wood screw here, carriage bolt, wood screw, so on and so forth. So it appears on this particular boat, they're only using the carriage screws when it comes to this main frame, but they're using the wood screws when it comes, it's funny, when it comes to these secondary frames. We managed to find 6-inch, quarter-inch diameter stainless carriage bolts, and we ordered a fairly large supply of them. So that, coupled with the fact that I don't really like the idea of just doing this with a wood screw, I'm actually going to change all of these as I go to carriage bolts. I find it just gives it a little bit more strength. You can really torque these things down instead of just one time fastening it and then it's permanently sealed. Because again, imagine the bottom is on here. Once this is tightened, that's it. So having a way to tighten it from the top, it's kind of a nice little feature. So I'm just gonna actually go ahead and drill these the same as I drilled these ones, and I'm gonna put in the carriage bolts. That being said, I'm not gonna put in the bolts on the top here like it has on this side. Again, you'll notice the ones with the carriage bolts have a hole here, and the ones that don't have a carriage bolt do not have a hole. Instead of the carriage bolt on the top, they actually have a little screw fastener right here. So that's what I'm gonna replicate for these ones. So next we're gonna move on to that screw there that we're gonna fasten down from the keel into the frame supporting piece. There's a couple of different bits that we're going to use when we do this. So we have our fastener right here, and we're first going to start off with drilling the pilot hole. Now you'll notice that the drill bits for the pilot hole is the same as the inner core size of this screw. It's not the same as the threading, you see the difference, but it's the same as the core size. So that'll provide a way so that when I screw this down it doesn't shatter or split this mahogany. Mahogany is really prone to splitting when you drill without a pilot hole. And then after we have that hole drilled, we'll then take this bit here and we're going to use that for the keel itself. Now it's going to do two things. First of all, it's going to put a chamfer on that hole, a little bit of a taper, so that this head will sit flush in the wood when it's all fastened down. And the second thing it'll do is it's going to be the same size as the threading, maybe just a touch a little bit bigger so it doesn't touch. And the point of that is if you have threading on this piece and threading on this piece, when you put this piece down and you screw it down really hard, there's going to be a gap in here because this one's coming up to a certain point until it gets tight here. It's like having two nuts on a rod and twisting the rod down. The nuts are going to stay like this the whole time. So by doing it so that it spins in the keel, it'll spin in the keel and tighten itself down to here. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to get these two bits going. So there's the pilot hole, and then this one will go in next. There you can see that beautiful chamfer that left behind, as well as a nice hole for this to go down into. So let's get our screw. Here it is. We'll see how it slides in there really nice, and it'll fasten down. Now I'm going to make sure I have the right length in there as well. So if I hold it up to the side here, you can see it goes almost all the ways through, which I think is perfect. As long as I have a pilot hole that's the right size, should be no problem. So I might just drill the pilot hole a little bit deeper. I think I'm about here right now, just to get it down to this point, because again, mahogany is very prone to cracking. You have to drill pilot holes when you're drilling holes in the mahogany piece. So I have this one ready to go. I got the pilot hole down to the correct height, and it's ready to get fastened into this piece of wood. Now we are at a bit of a standstill. The fastener people said it could take up to 2 weeks. There's currently a mail strike in Canada, so a little bit difficult to get some parts right now, but that's all right. I got plenty of other things to work on, but essentially I'm just going to be doing this to the other side, and then we're gonna have to take a pause on this. Again, due to the fact that I don't want to move on to the next parts until this is nice and fastened in an appropriate way. There's just too many frames on here that aren't really connected to the keel at this moment. Some of them are just barely hanging on there, and I want to make sure that I'm keeping as much rigidity to this keel as possible while I do this work. Had this been any other boat, I would feel totally comfortable with leaving, this one here, taking these two out, leaving this one here, etc. But this one is just so far gone that removing any more of the framing from it, I'm really worried this keel will start twisting or bending a little bit excessively. So I'm actually just going to wait, and we can move forward with that at a later time. That's actually going to do it for today's video, guys. I apologize we couldn't get any farther with it, but again, things like this happen. We have to order things and wait our due time for it. That being said, we do plan on uploading again sometime coming up soon with this week. I want to do, like I said, teardowns on those engine parts. So I'm going to have a couple of those ready to go and queue them up. So expect some more content a little bit later on here. Also, I don't believe I mentioned this before, but our website actually has 24,000 more part listings on there. So if you guys are looking for parts, we have everything you could think of on that website. And if we don't, make a note of it, drop us a comment, and we'll upload something to our website for sales. But feel free to hit us up and check out our website. We have lots of cool stuff on there. We have quite a polished website, so we want to make sure that we're sharing that with you guys. So again, if you just go down to the bottom of the description, it'll all be there for you. As well as you can also go on your smart TV and you can watch our channel on YouTube, so you can get the full 4K experience. Sometimes on the phone it doesn't show up quite as well, but again, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate the support, and we want to keep on doing this, so all of your guys' help has really helped further this channel. Take care.